Hello, everybody. It is another Wednesday with the Jocks of All Trades podcast, which means it is time for Sideline GMs. We gave you a mock draft that was very long last week. So we only did picks 1 through 16. Unfortunately, we cannot return our crew of 4 that we had. So we will be doing just myself and Matt, which is okay. We're going to give you the rest of those picks 16 through 32 leading up to draft week, which is actually next Thursday. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah, same here. I can't believe we're, just a week away from the draft. And, I see a lot of teams going in different directions. I see a lot of surprises for, teams coming up. And literally, I can't wait. Like, it's going to be a blast, I feel like.
It's unique. There's no solid number one quarterback, but that doesn't matter. There's so many good prospects this year that it's just kind of like a throw a dart and pick one and you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I agree with that because, like, generally around this time, year after year, you know who's going to go number one. You know that 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a quarterback that goes first overall. This year, I mean, it's a wild card. Literally, it's just like, all right, which direction is Jacksonville going to go in? Are they going to go defense? Kind of restructure that, or are they going to keep trying to build that offense that has needed help for numerous years?
A long time. Yep.
Yeah, personally, again, I still feel like they need to, you know, go offense, maybe build that offensive line a little bit and help Trevor Lawrence out a little bit and try to forget the more like error that Urban Meyer was.
Yeah, that was a rough time to be a Jacksonville fan.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of kind of random and twists, this whole back half, I don't think we agreed on, besides you and me, I don't think anyone agreed on players. So that being said, let's start with talking about something that I forgot to do. I just want to give a big shout out to Aubin at the Afro Latinos podcast. He's been super supportive of our podcast, been so kind to help us redesign stuff and create things that we need. Yeah, Matt's mic is a little messed up. I noticed. I think he's trying to fix that. Wanted to thank him for his support in everything we do. Speaking of support, I'm going to support Fresh Cuts. He always does a great job. Caleb Kemper, he's local. He's Marion, Indiana guy. And look, it's not just a haircut, it's an experience. I say that every time I sit in the chair. We always have a good chat. I always leave feeling great and looking great, I think. But I might be a little biased. That being said, book with Caleb at freshcutsbarbershop.com. Mondays and Tuesdays, I think you've said are your better days, right, Caleb? I don't know if you're still with us. I think he is. I think Matt's trying to come back in. We'll let Matt come in for a second. I think we lost to Matt for a minute. That's okay. We're going to move on here in a second. Mondays and Tuesdays. Correct. Sweet. Thanks, man. Matt should be back in a second, but we're going to start with the Los Angeles Chargers. We left off at pick 16. Hopefully Matt is okay. I see him trying to come in. But I can go ahead and talk about my picks while we're waiting for Matt. Kyle picked Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle out of University of Northern Iowa. I know. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I need it. Hey, there's Matt.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's way better. Yep, we're good.
All right. Seems like a slight technical difficulty, and let's get restart on this and go from there.
You're good. I just said Kyle picked Trevor Penning, the tackle out of University of Northern Iowa. Makes sense. The best thing you can do is support Justin Herbert at this venture. He will be a bright spot for their future. And look at who they have to play in their division. This has just become the most exciting division in the NFL. in ways that aren't good for Justin Herbert. So getting him support in one way or another is fantastic. Now,
no support for Justin Herbert. No come for Eckler. I mean, yeah, need to build up that offensive line so that their defense is in that position.
And the funny thing is, you and I took the same player. Jay took Bernhard Raymond, the offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. I get that too. Same thing. Protect him. I think you and I took the best player on the board still, but you know what would be really sexy for Justin Herbert? Giving him one of those like J.J. Watt-esque freak athletes that can just destroy people on the line. You want somebody that did that really well in a Big Ten conference? I would take George Karlaftis here. I would. I get how you could pass on him. I understand that you could go offensive line, but I can't lie. If you can walk away with George Karlaftis, you're just pulling the best thing that you could possibly pull.
Oh, absolutely. And, to build that defense even more than what you already have, I mean, you might as well just keep adding fuel in the fire with that defense by drafting a guy like Karlaftis. I mean, dude's just an animal machine, like whatever analogy or adjective you want to describe the guy as like a physical specimen, this is your guy. And, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, he is that, J.J. Watt type of mentality player, so on and so forth. And to imagine him on the other side of Bosa with Khalil Mack behind, oh my God. Like that'd
be destructive.
It's scary just talking about it, thinking about it, whatever you want to. I mean,
I'd hate to be a Chiefs fan. I'd hate to be a Broncos fan. Like, you made some good moves this offseason, but what's that going to do for you if you got to deal with those three guys on the field at the same time?
I was going to say, I mean, you're talking someone's QB is going to get rocked a couple times, throughout the season. It's just a matter
definitely. All right. Let's go to pick 18. We've kind of already talked about the Eagles a little bit. We all took a different take on this, and that's okay. Kyle took Chris Olave. Kyle's biased, but Kyle is probably right here by saying Devontae Smith can't do it all. Jalen Hurts has struggled very early in his career. Getting him somebody that is reliable that he can keep throwing to, absolutely. I would take Olave here. I like Olave better than Wilson. I'm very different from a lot of people on their boards. I would rather take Olave. I understand the pull to take Wilson first, but I just like Olave's stats better. I like how his combine was better. Like, I just feel like he's that great sleeper, speedy guy. Now, I get that Devontae Smith is kind of that already, but why not pair two of those guys? Because you can't cover both. That would just be awful for any defense. And the defenses in that division are not elite. I think you could get away with doing that and do really well.
I was gonna say with Olave, yeah, he is that kind of speedy guy, kind of a sleeper, but I don't know. Like, we all know that Wilson is NFL ready. And, some could argue that Olave isn't. He kind of is, though. He's like just a tiny step below where Garrett Wilson is. And it's just like, I think if Olave goes and, to the right team and, you get the right quarterback behind him, which it could be Jalen Hurts, especially if Philly is wanting to build a fast offense. I mean, Olave would be your guy.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, that he needs to be in the right spot, and I think Philly would be good for him. It's obvious that secondary needs help. Darius Slay can't do everything by himself. He's starting to push the wrong way in his 20s. Actually, I think he'll be 30 this year. I think. If not, he'll be 29. He isn't going to play till he's 43, guys. Like, you got to do something to replace him. I like McDuffie. I think he's the best one that's still available here. Those Washington corners always just happen to do really well. I don't foresee him falling. If he does fall past Philly, it won't be much further. And truthfully, Kyler Gordon, his teammate, could move up into the first round. I almost tweaked that today, but decided I'm not going to mess with anything that I did. So let's go to Jay's pick. Makes sense. Linebacker. I just don't know how well that linebacker position is going to be valued in the first round of the draft. It's just not, it's like center. They're just not valued. That middle of the field position is not valued at all. And it's sad because Devin Lloyd is incredible. If they walk away with Lloyd, suddenly you fix the middle of the field for the Philadelphia Eagles, which has been an issue for quite some time.
Yeah. I was going to say they definitely need some help in that linebacker position. But I agree with you in terms of like linebacker, especially with this draft. Like I feel like with this particular draft, there's plenty of I don't want to say plenty of wide receivers, but there's some good receivers. You have a lot of good defensive linemen, edge rushers, so on and so forth. Obviously, a surplus of offensive linemen. And, your defensive backs, your secondary, I mean, there's your strong point. So, linebacker, this draft, it could definitely help Philly. But I don't know. With me, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of heck for this, but I think Ahmad Gardner is going to fall down a little bit. I love the stats. The reason being is because he didn't play in a top 5 or a Power 5 conference. People think, oh, well, Cincinnati, he didn't give up any touchdowns. Well, they play in the AAC All-American Conference or something like that?
Yeah.
So, they're probably going to look at it as, that's kind of a weak conference. It's easy to hold wide receivers to not get any receiving touchdowns. So I think Gardner's going to fall a little bit. I hate to say because the dude is full of talent. Like he is a shut down corner. But in the mind of GMs, they want players that are in those Power 5 conferences, especially in like the top 15, top 10, top 5 draft picks. So for me personally, I think Gardner's going to slip a little bit, and I hate that, but he would help Philly tremendously, I feel like, with that.
Agreed. He's got that kind of swagger that I think Philly needs. Let's move on to the Saints now. We all did something different here, and it all makes sense to me in my mind. Treylon Burks makes sense. We don't know what in the world is going to happen with name just went out of my head. Wide receiver, Michael Thomas. There we go. We don't know what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. Treylon Burks is kind of that big Michael Thomas-esque looking guy. And he's proven that he's not your traditional wide receiver. He's kind of a do-it-all, like jock of all trade. But sorry. But he has proven he is really flexible. And I think when you're not sure what your quarterback situation is, when you're not sure who's going to be taking snaps from under the center, why not get somebody that's a little unorthodox, but bails their quarterback out quite a bit? And Treylon Burks just makes sense to me in that regard. My pick, it's obvious. I knew they were going to take a quarterback. I think they're safe enough to wait with their first pick to take a receiver, which is why I had them take J-Mo, because I think J-Mo has more appeal right now than Matt Corral. Take J-Mo first, then go get Matt Corral, get 2 rookies, get them used to each other. Maybe that's your next Mike Thomas and Drew Brees. Who knows? But you won't know until you get through 2 guys. And I think Matt Corral would fit insanely well into the Saints organization, their offense. He's always had that like underdog, dark horse kind of fight to him. And I think that's like entirely what the Saints organization embraces. So to me, I would say if Corral is there, that's where he's going to go. Granted, he may not. No one's really hot on Matt Corral. No one's really hot on any of these quarterbacks besides Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis, which even then that's a stretch because they're not going to come out and compete day one. But those are – go ahead.
I like Matt Corral going to the Saints, honestly. I think I touched on it last week, though, because I forget what team I had him going to. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, I had him going to the Texans, and like I don't know, I think he'd be a good fit for the Saints. Now that you bring that up, I just because he's a tuck and run type of guy, but in that division, the NFC South, you got a lot of big hitters, and if he goes to a conference like that, he's got to learn to slide. Otherwise he's going to learn real quick that you know like he's going to get hit, and it takes one good hit, and he's going to be done for a while. So he's got to learn.
Look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had to learn the same thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're not. I mean, just because you truck, linebackers that were 250, 225, 250 in college doesn't mean you're going to do the same thing in the NFL. It's a completely different type of strength. It's a different type of game completely.
Yeah.
So I like it, and you had Jamison Williams going to the Saints, right? Or yeah, you did. Yeah, that'd be an interesting development. Honestly, just seeing Corral and Jamison Williams team up together, two SEC boys, and completely change the face of the Saints.
Yeah. I don't hate Jay's pick. Look, Cam Jordan is another guy that's kind of aging out. The Saints defense is really good. I like the Saints defense. They're always that sleeper team, at least on defense, that could get you a lot of points in fantasy. I try to pick them up as a secondary defense if somebody doesn't pick them up, to begin with. But adding Jordan Davis to Cam Jordan and letting him learn how to make better moves in the pros, because the only problem with Jordan Davis is he is not a 4-down type of player. He gets so tired after like 2-3 downs. You got to pull him. And the Saints don't run like that. Alabama and Georgia both run like that, where you just swap out the next guy. But that's a different kind of talent level that you're not going to have at the NFL level. I think bringing in Jordan Davis, letting him learn behind Cam Jordan, letting him learn behind some of these guys, and then plugging himself in behind or beside some of those guys, nasty. That's going to be nasty. I don't care who your quarterback is. That guy's going to bail you out on Sunday. And I think that's a good pick.
Absolutely. And like you said, pair him beside Jordan Davis, like it kind of reminds me of what we were just talking about with the Chargers with Carl Lapis.
Yep.
And, putting him with, put Jordan Davis with a decent defense that New Orleans has, it's just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
For me, I went with Jahan Hodgson. I like the kid. I do. I think he's a great utility type of player. He can return, he can catch, he's real shifty, he's real speedy. So for me, I went with him because, I see him as kind of like that Cordarrelle Patterson type of guy where, he could, help, different aspects of their offense. And I feel like Jameis Winston's going to need that a lot, especially since we don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas.
Right.
We don't have the full aftermath of what's going on with Kamara, if he's going to be available, if he's going to miss some time. So bringing a guy like Jahan Dotson, I'm sorry.
Dotson, you got it. You got it.
That guy. Draft a guy like that, kind of your plug-in offensive threat that, can do multiple things for your offense, whether it's, line them up in the slot, line them up in the backfield, have them return kicks, punts, whatever.
He reminds me of like a poor man's Deebo Samuel, just a little bit. Yeah, like that's that. I like him. I just don't know if he'll go in the first round.
I can see it now. Now that you mention that. Speaking of Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I know. This is where this one gets funny because this is the first time Jay and I agree. So I'll just explain our picks, which is Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty. I'm going to try to say this delicately. Your quarterback room is not good. You lost a prospect that you could have had compete for the starting job. now you're really looking at options like, hey, what are we going to do come season start? You're really going to roll with Mitch Trubisky? Like, I don't trust that. I think a lot of people don't trust that. So I think they'll take Malik Willis. I don't think anyone really wants to pull the trigger on him that early because he did play at a small school. That's why I think Pickett will go first, even though I think Pickett is a reach. Pickett will go first because, like you said, Pickett played, like you said earlier with Ahmad Gardner. The other guys played at bigger schools. Makes sense. But I think if you want to get the best out of Malik Willis, put him with Pittsburgh. Where did Ben Roethlisberger play? Miami of Ohio. Who in the world knew where that was? You know, like they are the kings of we'll just take talent over where you played, which is why I kind of like Kyle's pick of Bernhard Raymond, the offensive tackle out of Central Michigan, also because, again, you want a franchise that doesn't care where you played and has also picked someone from Central Michigan before, and it worked out really well for them briefly. It makes sense. They need help on their O-line. However, I agree with your pick. They need desperate help on their D-line also.
I was going to say, they've needed help for a while now. And, you made the point that Jordan Davis isn't exactly that three-down defensive lineman, which, I feel like he'll slip a little bit. Will he develop into a three-down lineman? Absolutely, given enough time. You put him with a team like Pittsburgh, get him with a coach like Mike Tomlin, who's one of the most well-respected coaches in the NFL. Yeah. I love his coaching style. In a lot of ways, I wish Minnesota would pick him up as a coach. I know it's never going to happen, but a guy can dream. Yeah. Jordan Davis going to Pittsburgh, kind of get a nasty guy in the trenches, classic Pittsburgh football. Jordan Davis is their guy. I do like Malik Willis going to Pittsburgh as well because, it's no secret, Ben Roethlisberger, he's struggled the past, 2, 3, 4 years. You needed to make a move. Now,
and the truth is, Malik Willis has the best arm out of anyone in this draft. You want that, which is what they've been missing. Malik Willis is that guy.
And he's got a cannon for an arm. Now, with Mitch Trubisky, I'll be honest, I don't trust it either. I do trust the fact that he improved a little bit. I use that term loosely with spending time in Buffalo. Obviously him being drafted by Chicago with Matt Nagy, who, long story short, I blame Nagy for that. I blame Nagy for a lot of things that went wrong with Chicago.
Yeah.
And, do I think Trubisky would have done better with a different coach? Not in Chicago. But,
no.
He's come a bit of ways with just spending his time in Buffalo. I don't see him as the next long-term solution for Pittsburgh. But, who knows? We'll see when the season starts. And if Pittsburgh gets lucky enough to take Malik Willis, pull the trigger on it. Go for it.
I would. Yeah, I really would. Here's another one where things get interesting because there are two agreements, and it's between Kyle and Jay. Shocker. Not the same player, but the same position. Kyle has Devin Lloyd going here, and Jay has Nakobe Dean. I think Jay's a little biased, but that's okay. I still think Nakobe Dean should go in the first round, but again, I don't think they value that linebacker position as well, so I'm not sure he will. But I get the idea. They need somebody in the middle of the field. The Patriots' defense is 1 week they're great, the next week they're not. They need some steady leadership in the middle. Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean would provide exactly that. Doesn't matter which one you take. Personally, I do prefer Nakobe Dean over Devin Lloyd because that guy terrified the crap out of me in the national title because he could actually make a difference against arguably the better team. I felt was the better team. And he was all over the place. Ball hawk, comes in, makes the tackle. He is not afraid to get in there and get dirty. I like him. And I think that's what the Patriots need. They like that grit. They like that grind. Lloyd and Nakobe Dean both fit that. I have Andrew Booth. Their secondary is atrocious. Now that you're playing against Josh Allen 2 times a year, this is not the old Bills teams of old where you just steamroll them twice. Josh Allen's going to pass all over you. And make no mistake, he's going to do it a lot. Because if you've looked at the Bills' back end, they have no running backs. Literally, physically, yes, they have running backs, but they all suck. So Josh Allen is either going to run or throw for like 50 times a game. It's one or the other. So if I'm the Patriots here, I'm picking up a corner, and Andrew Booth is there. I like Andrew Booth. Yes, Clemson struggled this past year, but Clemson still produces some pretty good recruits. And you had the twist of everybody.
I did. And actually, prior to today, I had New England taking an offensive lineman. However, I don't think that's where they need help at. I think they do need help at the wide receiver position.
No kidding.
Granted, I'm sure Bill Belichick has some ace in the hole somewhere from a Division III school that no one's ever heard of, because that's usually what happens. And the next thing you know, they're Super Bowl MVP or whatever. Like, I don't know. We never know what Bill Belichick is going to do. However, I went with Drake London here. I know everyone is saying he's a top 10 receiver. He's a top 10 receiver. But for me personally, I feel like he will slip down a little bit because, he is dealing with a little bit of an injury. I believe it was his ankle, if I'm not mistaken. And teams, whenever you have a prospect that is dealing with an injury, teams are a little hesitant. And, it's a sad thing because, they could have, a little bit of an injury bug right then and there. But, you're giving up potentially a, once-in-a-generation type of talent with Drake London if he were to slip all the way down to, say, pick 21 with New England. And, I think he would pair along great alongside Mac Jones. And I don't know, man. I could see Drake London going in to New England, learning that New England Patriot, lifestyle that, everyone preaches, so on and so forth. And he'd be, the face of that franchise alongside Mac Jones, of course.
Yeah, I feel the only downside to that is that Mac Jones did too well with crappy guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on to the. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you give him a consistent and high ability receiver. Mac Jones may, have a great sophomore type season, and it's just, we'll see. But I think it would help Mac Jones tremendously in terms of development.
Agreed. Let's go ahead and move to the Packers. Devontae Wyatt from Georgia would absolutely be a great fit here. Monster of a guy. I didn't have J-Mo. I had another receiver going there. So I guess this is where J-Mo is going. I don't remember who I had. I'll have to go back and look.
I said we've slept since then.
Yeah, we have. But J-Mo makes sense here. They haven't really addressed. You got Sammy Watkins, but Sammy Watkins is like here on a scale of here's a whole bunch of other guys that would have been a lot better. So I still think address it anyways because you don't have Devontae Adams. Like I still am struggling to find out who Aaron Rodgers will be throwing to come this season. So I have J-Mo coming in there. Jay has Chris Olave. Yeah, that makes sense. Olave is a freak and could very well be the next Devontae Adams. And then you have Kenyon Green, which I also like that pick.
I was going to say, I know, I think it was 2 weeks ago when Kyle and I did what teams should do. I thought Green Bay should double down and go after wide receivers with both their first round picks. a small part of me still thinks they should do that, even though they signed Sammy Watkins, because I mean, let's face it, Sammy Watkins hasn't exactly lived up to the hype he had when coming out of the draft. However, you know, you need to protect your investment in Aaron Rodgers. You're paying him a crap load of money. Build your offensive line a little bit. That way he can stay like he's how old is he now? 38, 39 years old. He's getting older. Yeah, he can still move, but where's he going to be in 2 years from now? Is he still going to be as mobile, as fast? Go with a guy like Kenyon Green, who I'm trying to remember his. Yeah, 6'4", 325, shows tremendous strength, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think you go that route, and he'll be the first Texas A&M O lineman to be drafted in the first round since 2016.
Yeah, and he's such a strong interior guy too. It uh, really shocks me that he could fall this far, especially with the premium of everybody always needs an offensive lineman. But he's good. I like him. That's actually a good pick. I feel like that's a sleeper pick, but I like it. Let's move on to the Cardinals. Kyle and I had a similar idea here. An edge needs to go. I think the Cards could hold out and grab Ojabo. Look, Ojabo is going to have surgery. Ojabo is going to be out for a while. But if you're the Cards, you can afford to kind of wait for a bit because you will still have J.J. Watt, but J.J. Watt's aging. We all know that's going to happen. Karlaftis would also be good here. Same reasons. Linderbaum makes sense. Their whole O-line is questionable. I'm not sure I could pick out anyone on their O-line that deserves to be all pro at all, which is bad if you can't list anybody. But I like your pick. You go ahead and tell us why you picked Andrew Booth. But I like it. I know why I like it, but just for the sake of tearing down.
I was going to say for Andrew Booth, like you alluded to earlier, Clemson did have a struggling season. However, Andrew Booth coming out of Clemson, I feel like he could be their good replacement for losing Patrick Peterson a couple of years back. You know, listen, he's every bit of, he's very good in both man and zone coverage, good height and weight, reach, so on and so forth. Everything you want in a quarterback in today's game. Everyone's saying, oh, it's a running league, it's a running league. Well, not so fast. I think that the passing game is, growing. It's coming back more and more, especially, with the 17 game season. I said it last year. A lot of these records that quarterbacks held for numerous years, it's not going to be long before, every quarterback in the league is trying to break some sort of record.
Yeah.
You need a corner that's going to be consistent, that has quite the length, quite the reach, and Andrew Booth fits the bill.
And that's part of why they were a one and done in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I like that pick. I really do. I think Booth is a lot better than people realize. Once again, I laughed when I saw this because, Matt, all three of us took offensive linemen except for you. So I'll go ahead and make it simple here for our three picks, and I'll let you talk. Kyle took Tyler Linderbaum. It makes sense. He's very flexible. He can play anywhere on the line. It's one of those few guys that you could ask to do whatever, and he will. Bernhard Raymond, the offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. Again, you need a big guy in the middle. I don't care if it's Zeke. I don't care if it's Tony Pollard. You need somebody to help soak up that room. Trevor Penning does the exact same thing. I don't think he'll fall this far, but if he does, what a steal for Dallas. I think he's kind of that dog mentality kind of O-lineman, and you like to see it. So Penning for me would go to the Cowboys. And then you get to be the unique one here, so I'll let you go ahead and take that one.
I'm going with Roger McCreary here. Listen, with NFC East, it's definitely a type of division where you don't know what to expect year after year. with the Cowboys, they're constantly saying, "Oh, this is America's team. We're going to Super Bowl," so on and so forth. The Giants are the Giants. The Commanders are the Commanders, and Philly is going to do Philly things. Like it's just the quarterback play in the NFC is spotty at best from time to time. Dallas, I feel like they should go with a guy like Roger McCreary. Would be a great option. A great number two to Trayvon Diggs. He's highly disruptive in the passing game. Great in press coverage. Like he's one of those guys. He will hit you within those first 5 yards, and make life
and
hell
you'll feel it.
Yeah. Now, what I am concerned about with him is he could get burned from time to time because he's not real shifty. Do I think that could develop over time? Absolutely. He puts in the time, he puts in the work, he puts in the effort. He could be a great, lockdown corner, like we talked about with Andrew Booth and or Gardner. I'm sorry, Ahmad Gardner.
Yeah, he has the potential to do the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I like Roger McCreary going there. I think it's a great pickup if Dallas were to do it. Granted, Dallas needs to cover, a couple other things, but I digress.
Yeah. Yep. They could use a lot. Speaking of teams that could kind of use a lot, I mean, it's not nearly as much as other teams, but I feel like it's pretty down to 3 positions, and I think we all took those 3 positions. Kyle took Andrew Booth. Makes sense. Again, look what division they play in. Look how they lost in the playoffs. Defense being passed on by Mahomes. Corner makes sense. Not going to argue that one. You and I had the same. I'll just explain it with the fact of even if you don't have a run game, it's still important to keep Josh Allen upright and to keep him protected because he is your future. I don't care about Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen could throw to like a trash bag and it wouldn't matter. As long as it scores touchdowns, fantastic. So the first priority for me is just to protect that guy. So I understand Jay's pick also because all they do have is Stephon Diggs. It would make sense to add another guy there. Very well could be Treylon Burks. Would make sense to me. We've talked about that being the guy to kind of bail out their quarterbacks. And Josh Allen has to run a lot. It would be nice to kind of see him be able to stay in the pocket and find somebody that comes back to the quarterback. Find somebody that says, hey, I'm open. Let me make some space. Throw it to me. So Burks makes sense to me. Why did you choose Zion Johnson?
I almost did not take Zion Johnson because Buffalo has needed a running back for a while. So I almost took Breece Hall. Almost.
Do you think they would invest that capital in the first round though? I almost did the same thing and then I said, but it's the Bills.
Yeah. That's why,
because last year I had the Bills taking Etienne and they didn't. And I was like, you're stupid.
Yeah. And, I don't know, man. Like, I think it's a dumb move if they were in a position to take a player like Breece Hall and they don't. It is the Bills, though. So, they're going to, once again, go a little conservative. Protect Josh Allen as much as possible. Zion Johnson, I went to Zion Williamson, I guess. Got basketball.
I mean, he could do it too. They're about the same size.
Right? But no, Zion Johnson, he definitely adds protection for Josh Allen, where he could have more time in the pocket, where he could, he doesn't have to scramble, he doesn't have to tuck and run. He should be like a hard lineman to move with his size. He's a little smaller per se in terms of height for a lineman, but lower center of gravity. He probably have a lot of lower body strength to where it can help out Josh Allen in the passing game.
He should. I mean, that dude's a monster.
Yeah, I was going to say 6'3", 312. So
yeah, that's a big guy.
It should help Josh Allen a lot, but again, I don't know, man. Again, Bills need to address, a few positions, and I think this is the route they're going to go as offensive guards.
Of course. They're the Bills. They're very unsexy. That's why I kind of pegged them with Zion Johnson. Like, it's still a good pick, but it's just they're not splashy. Speaking of people that can be kind of splashy, though, like when they took A.J. Brown, Kyle, it makes sense taking Zion Johnson. You want to talk about people that need to bolster Derrick Henry? That is your entire offense. I'm sorry, I'm not a believer in Tannehill, not a believer in A.J. Brown. Julio Jones, when he was there, not a believer of that whole offense other than Derrick Henry. Once Derrick Henry goes away, you no longer have an offense. However, I said, okay, but they did make some moves in free agency for their O-line. Do I think they're done? No. Do I think they can get stuff later? Yes. But I don't think you can pass on Devin Lloyd. You want to talk about a team that has not had a good linebacker forever? It is the Tennessee Titans. Like, they've had decent ones. They've had faux ones and Clowney. They've had, guys that play defensive end and linebacker, but they've never had a true solid guy in the middle of the field to just control and command that defense. That's Devin Lloyd. And as soon as I realized that, I said, you know what? You're going to have to stop Jonathan Taylor. If McCaffrey gets dealt to the Texans, like the rumors are coming out that maybe he will, you're going to have to deal with McCaffrey. You're going to have to deal, you know what I mean? Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. You're going to have to deal with a whole bunch of guys that if they get it figured out, they're going to create a whole lot of offensive firepower. If I'm the Titans, knowing that I have a one-dimensional offense, would like to bolster my defense to shut down everything that somebody's going to do. So for me, it's Devin Lloyd. Which you had the same thought. Nice. It happens often. David Ojabo, I understand taking edge. They could – shut up. They could take an edge here. My cat. And he could wait for a while. I don't think it would be great for them to take someone that has to wait for a while, but I get it. He is a great talent. I think had he not been hurt, he would have been in the top 15, but he's not going to be. He could even slip to the second, which would be really unfortunate, kind of. But I get it. However, I love your pick of Nakobe Dean. I know why, again, because I made a similar pick. However, why Nakobe Dean and not Devin Lloyd? Oh, did he die? I think he died. He coming back. He back.
I'm back. I don't know what's going on tonight, but good Lord. Yeah. For me, let's continue on. For me, Nakobe Dean. Listen, Dean is just defensive specimen. He has explosive speed, exceptional acceleration at the linebacker position, and with that, he can get a full head of steam. He's not going to run around blockers. He's going to try to run through them. And in the AFC South, you alluded to it already. You're going to have Jonathan Taylor from the Colts. You're going to have Etienne from the Jaguars, who I expect big things from him this year. Time will tell with that. I just think, and if McCaffrey does get, dealt to the Texans, you need a guy like Nakobe Dean who is just fast right off the line. And with a coach like Mike Vrabel, who also was a linebacker.
Yep.
To me, that fits perfectly. Put Nakobe Dean with a coach like Mike Vrabel with the Tennessee Titans in a division like that. I think it's a home run if
I like it.
Nakobe Dean.
I like it. I do. He's terrifying. Let's go to Tampa Bay. I'm ready to make a splish splash with this pick. Jermaine Johnson makes sense. Yes, they need an edge. A lot of guys on that D-line are aging. And I'll tell you what, Jermaine Johnson tore it up after he transferred from Georgia to Florida State. He really made it happen. Jay has Zion Johnson. That makes sense to me too. Keep Brady and playoff Lenny upright as much as you can. However, I don't like playoff Lenny. I don't think that playoff Lenny has that next factor. I think Fournette maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, if you had that Fournette, you bet. I'm on board. That's that kind of guy that I think is going to power your way into the end zone every time. That is a reliable back for Brady. Not anymore. And now you don't have Ronald Jones. You have Giovanni Bernard, who's also an old guy. Like, all you have is old. Now, they could take something later, but I'm going to make a pitch because Tom Brady's old. And if you're looking to win a Super Bowl, what you do is you take complementary things to support something that's already strong. Now, their defense is already strong, but so is their offense. The only problem with their offense is, what do you do when Tom Brady starts getting blitzed? Who's going to bail him out? Not Godwin, not Evans. Those guys are going to be down the field. You got rid of O.J. Howard, so now all you have is Gronk, and Gronk is just a receiving threat. They need somebody like Breece Hall. He is an excellent receiver. He is a great runner in space. He's a bowling ball. He will bounce off of everything. He is everything that Saquon Barkley was supposed to be. And I think if he does live up to that, this guy is going to be a monster. And at this point, you have Tom Brady. You want to convince Tom Brady to stay because he's talked about going to Miami. You want him to stay at Tampa. Give him that sexy pick. Let him have somebody that's going to go out there and just ball out. That is Breece Hall to a T. I don't care if it's reachy. I don't care if it's a little early. Who cares? That guy should be going in the first round. Truthfully, if you looked at his combine, he should be going in the top 10, but that's not what people need, so he's going to fall. And I think Tampa should swoop in and take him.
I was going to say, it's definitely a good pick. You know, when I think of Breece Hall, you know, a lot of names come to mind, you know, Jonathan Taylor being one of them. You know, a lot of, you know, receiving running backs. However, I think he would be, you know, a good. I don't want to say replace. He has a lot of comparisons to James White. You know, when Brady was in New England, you know, he was always there to bail out Tom Brady. You know, whenever he felt the pressure, James White was right there. Well, dink and dunk pass, and James White could pick up the first down. Breece Hall could do that for him again.
Here's another comparison that I heard the other day, and it made me solidify this pick. This was the pick I was going to change, and I didn't. LaDainian Tomlinson.
Ooh.
To which I looked at it. I looked at his tape, and I'm like, if LaDainian Tomlinson was like 40 pounds more muscle, yes, that's what this guy is. But they run the same way in space, in blocks. Like they just know how to run. And it's another Big 12 school. LaDainian Tomlinson went to TCU. I was like, the comparisons are there. It's reachy. It is reachy. We haven't seen him play a single snap of NFL football. It's very reachy. However, I still think he has that potential. And that's what Saquon was. Saquon was potential. That's all you could really draft him for was potential. McCaffrey, potential. Like they played weird roles in college, but that's okay because the potential is what's going to get them drafted.
I think here's the thing, though. Like, I don't really consider Breece Hall as reachy. And the reason being is because, you know, he did play at a Big 12 school. Big 12 is known for producing a lot of, like, good running backs. I mean, let's name a few. Ricky Williams.
Adrian Peterson.
Cedric Benson was one of them when he came out of Texas. Darren McFadden was decent for a couple of years, and he was Arkansas. Like you can list like numerous running backs that came out of the Big 12. I never if I am a GM and I'm looking at running backs, I'm not I'll look at a few from the SEC. Big 10, I'll look at a couple. Pac-12, I'm not touching any, honestly, but that's just, you know, my personal preference. Big 12 is where I want to look at first because Big 12 is known for producing a lot of good running backs throughout the history of the NFL.
If not the SEC, because the SEC is kind of taking that title too.
They are, and I'm not going to deny that because, I mean, every top 5 recruit and their brother wants to go to a school like either Alabama,
Georgia, Florida. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, they want to go to those big name schools, but for me, traditionally, I don't know. Big 12 sticks out to me more. I mean, maybe in a couple of years, especially since Texas is leaving the Big 12, then yeah, I mean, SEC is going to take that title like that. So for me, I went with Boy Mafe from Minnesota. Listen, kid's got a great first step off the line, great lateral movement, which makes blocking him a challenge for sure. And was sort of a good replacement for an aging D line and linebacker core. I mean, like you talked about earlier. I mean,
He'll be back. We'll give him a minute. Meanwhile, this is my cat, Spunky. I have a second cat, Zeke. He will probably not show up very often. But this is my first cat. I know Matt's coming. And he's here. Yeah.
thank you, Spectrum. Anyway, back to Boy Mafe. You know, great lateral movement makes blocking him challenging for offensive linemen for sure. And I think he's a great replacement for that aging D line linebacking core. I mean, like you talked about, Ndamukong Suh is getting older. Jacob Pierre-Paul is getting older. I mean, shake it up a little bit, rebuild your defense or defensive line at least, and then look to have a strong defensive core again.
Yeah, I'm with it, and I like Mafe a lot. I think he should go in the first round. I don't know that he will, but he should. Let's talk Packers again. Kyle has Sky Moore. So does Jay. It makes sense. Receiver, you had Treylon Burks. I'm the only weirdo here because I had them taking JMO first. Devontae Wyatt. Look, their defense is like kind of garbage. They're okay, but one of their weak points I would say is their D line. Like you've got decent linebackers, you've got okay corners, you got Jair Alexander. Wow, Jair Alexander, who is really good. Your safeties are meh. They're okay. They're all right. But your D line is where you struggle the most. Why not take a splash? Take the guy that helped Jordan Davis in Devontae Wyatt. That guy is also incredibly massive and kind of a unicorn. Not as unicorny as Jordan Davis, but I would still take Devontae Wyatt here. You could take two receivers, but I think with signing Sammy Watkins, I don't think it's necessary for two receivers. So we'll see. So why would you take Treylon Burks over Sky Moore, I guess is the question now.
It. I know I keep sounding like a broken record here, but I mean with Western Michigan, not a Power Five conference, and I feel like with Sky Moore, he's going to fall down a little bit, and I hate that. Like, I hate. Listen, I hate the the stigma that comes along with playing in a smaller conference. Just because you play in a smaller conference doesn't mean you don't have Power Five conference talent. Sky Moore, absolutely. If Sky Moore was in, let's just say the Big Ten, if he played at Michigan or Michigan State, I think he would be, top 20. He would probably be number 2 or 3 receiver. And, I think with me, I think that's why I went with Treylon Burks here. Not to mention, with Treylon Burks, he has great speed, he's a deep threat. Bottom line is the Packers need to take a receiver here, honestly. Sammy Watkins is not he's not your long term solution for a wide receiver. You go with a guy like Treylon Burks, he has big hands, he should be able to secure like 90% of his catches, he's quick off the snap, and that should definitely help, shake off press coverage situations.
Yeah.
Take a guy like Treylon Burks, put him in the slot, give Rodgers, you know, another weapon they need, especially since they lost Devontae Adams.
Yep. That was painful. And yeah, I know you got a first rounder out of it, but I feel like he was worth more than what they gave him away for. But that's just me.
I do too, and like I don't know what the I don't know what the Packers were thinking, but I mean
They weren't.
Well, yeah. Long and short of it is.
The Chiefs should be pretty easy for the next two picks because we can explain what they need kind of at the same time. Kyle had Mafe. I like it. They need it. Their defense is always perennially meh. I had a weirdo. I had Christian Watson. I think they need a receiver. I think they'll reach here. I'm not sure Watson should go at this spot, but I feel like they're going to pull for it anyways. Sky Moore could go here too easily. Both of those are guys that I think you could get on day two, but I feel like the Chiefs are going to be so needy for a receiver. They're just going to take whatever's there if a lot is already gone. Jay had Andrew Booth. Makes sense. Again, your secondary is meh. Tyrann Mathieu is on the outs, which means your secondary got a lot weaker. Booth makes sense, especially if he falls this far. That's kind of a steal. And then you had the granddaddy of picks here, and I loved it. Go ahead and give me your explanation for that. I've heard it, and I like it, and I want to hear it again.
I was going to say, you and I talked about it. Listen, I feel the same way about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the same way you feel about Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think Kansas State should go after Breece Hall. Listen, they're not gonna replace Tyreek Hill. They're not gonna replace that speed. Me personally, I don't trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's been off the field more than he's been on due to injuries. So I think you pick up a guy like Breece Hall, to definitely help Mahomes out of the backfield. Breece Hall is that type of running back. You can hand the ball off to him. He's real shifty. You can find holes. You can run through them. You can throw him the ball. Guess what? He's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to get around the defenders. He's going to get a lot of yards after the catch. Me personally, for fantasy football next year or this coming year, I want to take a guy like Breece Hall because he's going to give me a lot of points. And I feel the same way, with the Chiefs taking Breece Hall here. I think, you kind of reinvent the wheel here, if I'm being honest. And Chiefs definitely take a guy like Breece Hall. That way, because obviously that's kind of their missing piece as far as the offense goes right now. They spent a lot of money rebuilding their offense or offensive line last year.
Right.
You don't need a tight end. You have Travis Kelce, who's the best, in my mind, best tight end in all football right now. You went out and got Juju Schuster-Smith. Not the greatest pickup, but I think he'll have a better year this year than years past because, let's
Mahomes.
face it. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, Mahomes now is better than Roethlisberger in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So I think you go for Breece Hall here. You get a long-term solution to your running back issue. And, definitely have a 1-2 punch with Breece Hall and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not saying cut Helaire, right off the bat, but he would definitely be a great number 2 to Breece Hall, number 1.
Yes, he's never quite emerged as that number 1 option. So I'm with you. Let's go to Kansas City Part 2. Jahan Dotson, it makes sense. We've talked about a receiver. Did he? Oh, no, he didn't. Okay, so he's sticking with one receiver. I took Travis Jones out of UConn. Big D tackle, good guy, moving up in a lot of boards. You want to talk about a place where Kansas City is weak. Let's talk D tackle. You've got Chris Jones, but he's also aging, and your defense sucks massively. Go ahead and take it on a big guy. Hopefully that'll pan out for you. You and Jay were very alike in this one. Jermaine Johnson and Ojabo are both freaks. Taking that edge is amazing. I get it, and I'm guessing your whole point was even if you take Ojabo, you don't need him right away. He can kind of sit for a while, heal up, and then you're still good.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, Jabo, and I'm a little biased, being a Michigan fan, but Jabo is raw talent. Like just from year one to year two, there was such a leap in terms of like how much he grew as an edge rusher. And I
It's
think,
called Aiden Hutchinson.
yeah,
I'm just teasing.
I'm not going
I'm
to
just
deny it.
teasing.
Well, I'm not going to deny it though, because the Aiden Hutchinson effect helped out Ajabo a lot. I
Yeah,
will agree with that wholeheartedly. I know you were teasing, but it's the truth though. However, I
he's
think
still good.
yeah, he's still good. And I think mentally that helps him a lot in
Oh
terms
yeah,
of like, oh hey, this is what I did, from year one to year two. I want to go into the league now. And I want to keep getting better.
and he most certainly did. We lost Matt again. That's okay. We're gonna get Matt back in a second. We're gonna get him back in a second. I don't know. I literally said it. I was like, "We'll have him back in a second. It's not a big deal. We're getting used to it."
I apologize for tonight, guys. I really do.
You're fine.
I'm not sure what's going on with my internet tonight,
It
but
happens. It happened to me a couple months ago, and I remember how I felt about that.
but you know, I feel like with the Jabo, with him making such a great leap in terms of like talent wise, he could become a student of the game. He can learn from guys like Chris Jones and Frank Clark, and become an elite, edge rusher. Especially, if he just takes, I don't want to say the whole season, but an extended amount of time to heal up after that Achilles tear and just learn from, guys like that and just soak that knowledge and come back even better, even stronger, so on and so forth.
I like it. And Ojabo, I mean, he still is good. I think that injury is going to really push where he could potentially be drafted. Let's go to 31. I know Kyle was really excited to talk about this one with Kyer Elam, the corner out of Florida. I don't know why he was excited. He's not here with us. But I will say he's a freak athlete. I'll give him that. And he is good. He is very much one of those first, second, like early second round, late first kind of guys. And if you want to talk Cincinnati needing a corner, this is the perfect place for them to be a little reachy for that. Jay and I finally agreed on something. We both agreed that Kenyon Green, the guard out of Texas A&M, should go to the Bengals. They're good on tackles. They signed a bunch of weirdos. I'm not really certain how well they'll pan out. I think it was more desperation pulls than anything else. And I think their first round pick will also be a desperation pull and a O lineman, even if it's an O lineman they could get later, which I kind of think Green could be. Again, one of those early second round, late first round kind of guys. But both of anything they pick here is going to be reachy. There's not going to be anything that they need that falls to them. They don't need a receiver. They don't need, you know what I mean? Like they're going to reach for something they need more than what falls to them. And I think you kind of nailed that too with taking Bernhard Raymond, the guy out of Central Michigan, because they need it. I said it last year. I thought they goofed up with Chase. Like I don't. This isn't me saying that Chase is bad. This isn't me saying that without Chase they would have never been there. I'm just saying they goofed up and goofed up hard by not investing in it at all, and that's why they lost the Super Bowl. Truthfully,
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. Um, listen, it's no secret. Joe Burrow is the face of that franchise. You need to protect him. He has
yep.
plenty of offensive weapons. He had just extended Joe Mixon's um, contract. I forget the full details of it, but I think it's for what, 4 years, maybe.
I think so. And
Yeah,
Mixon's good. I like Mixon.
yeah. I like Mixon too, especially when he's healthy. You need you need to protect Burrow, and I think Raymond, he fits that. You know, I think with Raymond, he'll fall in the draft. Like I said, and I know I sound like a broken record. Played in the smaller conference, played in the MAC. You know, but guess what? He's not the first tackle to come from Central Michigan. There's Fisher. So I mean, I think Bengals should go after Raymond here, build up that um, build up that offensive line even more. Because, like you said, they signed a couple tackles. They're not the long term solution. You go get a guy like Bernard Raymond, who's young, who's going to be fresh, who's going to develop, so on and so forth, and basically find a way to protect Joe Burrow at all costs, especially since he was hit. I think he was what hit the most in the NFL this past year.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah.
He's going to turn into Andrew Luck if they don't protect him.
Yeah, literally. And me personally, I don't want to see that. I like Joe Burrow. He needs to be protected. Go get some offensive linemen. You're a Raven, so that's
well, and a Bama fan, so both teams, I'm like, but he's good. I'll give him that. He's a good kid. Yeah. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He just really needs help, and the Bengals need to address it.
Now back to
if Kyle, they don't this year, I'm done with the Bengals.
Oh yeah. Now back to Kyle's pick for a minute, though. I could somewhat see why he would be excited about it, because Elam's a big guy. He's definitely a corner that he's kind of your sleeper pick at corner. And honestly, I mean, if you saw how Eli Apple played in the Super Bowl, then Cincinnati probably to address that secondary need as well. So I like Kyle's pick. I can see why he was excited for that one.
Yep. I'm excited for this last pick. This last pick is nothing short of chaos. All chaos. So Kyle picks Nakobe Dean. Makes sense. The Lions don't really have a defensive identity. Got it. I took Desmond Ridder. Ridder has been given a first-round draft grade by many GMs in the league. He could be that sneaky guy that the Lions pick up to say, okay, this is who we're going to run with in the future. This guy's pretty good. But again, Matt's going to say it. That's why he's smiling. Because of where he played, it's potential that he is a bust, and that's okay. But this is a very Lions pick, and you at least have to agree with that.
Actually, I'm smiling for a completely different reason.
Wait. Oh, because...
Oh, no. For Desmond Ridder, I actually think he's going to go number 34 to the Lions. I almost put him at pick 32. But I think he's going to go pick 34.
I love it.
Just to throw everything, throw that twist out there that the Lions will probably do.
Oh, he still could, because you're right, because 33 would be Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could. Weird.
So yeah, that's why I was smiling there. It's just like, that's actually kind of funny, because if we did do a second round, pick 34 for me was going to be Desmond Ridder. So that's absolutely hilarious, honestly.
And I have to laugh because for me, pick 34, I wanted them to take a receiver because they need one. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's it. So It pans out. I don't remember who I had. I haven't done one in 3 weeks. I'm probably going to do a new one. Hey, I'll go ahead and put that out for everybody. I'm going to make everybody on this podcast do a 2-round mock through PFF, and then we will post that Wednesday evening so that when you roll up and get ready for draft day, we have those set for you on what we think is really actually no more whatever we think is going to happen. This is it kind of picks for that day. So Matt, go ahead and start working on that when you have a chance. I'll start working on it this week. We got time. Well, we got till next Wednesday, so we got time. Jay's pick, however, Matt Corral. Interesting. I could see it. Do I think he'll fall that far? Maybe not. But if he does, that's kind of a win-win situation for Detroit. That's definitely better than Jared Goff on any given day. So I like it. However, when I saw your pick, I love it. I love it. Again, one of those guys I think could sneak into the bottom half of the first round. He is good. He played with Trey Lance, and Lance is playing at the NFL level, which should probably mean that the guy he was thrown to is probably pretty good, especially post Lance. He's still doing good things. So, will it be the right pick? Was it the right pick for me with the Chiefs? But he probably will go there.
I was going to say, like, for a big target, 6'4", 208, his 40 time was 4.36. That's cooking, honestly, for a receiver that big. And, you know, I'm not saying he could, you know, to be the next Calvin Johnson, but, you know, Calvin Johnson was a big guy too. You know, definitely had a lot of great opportunities for 50-50 balls. I think Christian Watson could, you know, be that same way as well. And, you know, honestly, Babytron. But, you know, I also think, you know, I think Randy Moss has, you know, basically the same type of height and weight coming out of Marshall.
Yeah.
So I think Christian Watson going to a division like the NFC North can make great catches with, you know, basically away from his body, like basically anywhere within his reach, he can catch it. So I think.
Oh. One more time. We'll get him back. We're going to pull him back in here in a second. I need like some elevator music. Can I play like music or something? I'm going to play like elevator music for a sec. Oh, no, wait. He's back. There we go.
There we go.
You're good. I was like, I need like some elevator music for like when you leave just to like cover me.
Need the cat with hanging on a wire that hang in there or something.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that Christian Watson, you know, he has a high ceiling for growth and development. And, you know, do I think he's a number one option? Not yet. Not yet. With the right coaching, with the right development, which I know Detroit isn't that ideal place right now. But with Dan Campbell's coaching style, he wants to win. You know, even with me being a Minnesota Vikings fan, you know, I want to see big things happen with Detroit. And with Dan Campbell, you know, at the helm, I think it can happen. And, you know, if he can get players that he likes and develop them into great players, I do see some good things coming out of Detroit, even with Jared Goff.
Goff just needs the right help. I'll put it that way.
He does. I mean, there's no denying that.
They were at a Super Bowl for a reason. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But all right, well, that's going to wrap up our second part of our first mock draft, or I guess our third mock draft now. Oh gosh, I'm losing it. I'm running out of numbers here. Thanks all for being with us. Like, subscribe, check out all of our stuff here at the top where you can find us and listen. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.